Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. What I'm going to talk about today is how men can be more romantic to their wives and what this even means. This was a reader request, and I have written about this, but for everybody who wants to know more about the topic, I will talk today about how you can be more romantic and what your wife is even talking about when she says that. So for a lot of guys who are not highly sensitive people, if you have a wife who's a highly sensitive person, and I can also link you in the description of this episode to what that even means, a highly sensitive person. But, if you're a guy and you have a wife who you think is sensitive, she's probably even more sensitive than you think. She's probably a highly sensitive person, which is 20% of people. It's a trait. It doesn't change. And it means that they're more observant, more sensitive. They feel everything deeply, whether it's physical pain, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's happy feelings, everything they feel more deeply. And while that is nice when she's feeling positive things, it can be less nice and more harrowing and dangerous seeming when she is very, very upset. So things that she wants as a highly sensitive woman, most likely, if she's big into romance, she's most likely a highly sensitive woman, but most possibly women want romance. What these women mean by this is that they want to feel special and like you cherish them and you deeply care about them and think about them and that they are not just anybody to you. I'm always hearing this in couples counseling where the woman says, well, if I died, he wouldn't care. He would move on. He'd be back at work the next day. He'd remarry. If he wasn't with me, he'd be with somebody else. This is not uncommon for women who want more romance to say about their husbands. And their husbands really don't feel like this. They do feel a special connection with the woman that they're with. And they frequently get very frustrated thinking, what else could I possibly do to tell my wife that I love her besides literally telling her that I love her, going to work, providing, coming home, and telling her, many men think frequently, that she's attractive and that they love her. What else can you do is the rhetorical question, but it should not be rhetorical because there are many things you can do. So in this podcast, we will go through some of them so that you do not feel quite so terrified and irritated and possibly even very angry when you hear yet again that you are not romantic enough. Instead of thinking, why are you up my ass about yet another thing that is bullshit, you can potentially understand more about what your wife means and then empathize because it is unlikely that you are actually doing a lot of these things already, or she wouldn't be complaining. Now, let me, in order to facilitate your understanding of this topic, let me make an analogy to sex. So I frequently say that romance for women is like sex for men, and specifically like blowjobs for men. So you don't have to give your husband a blowjob, but he would really like it, and it's a real nice thing to do, and it enhances his experience and makes him feel special. All of those things are the same for romance. You do not have to be romantic toward your wife. It is, quote, enough, or I guess it could be seen as enough for you just to, be nice, courteous, helpful, and obviously take care of stuff around the home. But that does not make her life magical. Just like plain old missionary intercourse does not make your life magical. Unless you are 17, then it makes your life very magical. But when you are older and in a monogamous relationship, you would like some bells and whistles. This is what women want. They want the bells and whistles. So they want the emotional blowjob. Romance is an emotional blowjob for women. So many of you may be thinking, well, maybe if I got some real blowjobs, I'd want to give some emotional blowjobs. But listen, it's got to start somewhere. Maybe if you start giving some of these emotional blowjobs, you're going to get some real life blowjobs, and it takes two. If you are very non-romantic and very practical outside of the bedroom, then she may be that way inside the bedroom. And you do not like, I am sure, pragmatism and just kind of doing what you got to do attitude in the bedroom. You would like there to be more enthusiasm, more special things, more novelty, more excitement, more closeness. This is, of course, women don't realize this about men. When they want these special things in bed, they feel closer, right? You feel closer doing these special things in bed if you are the average man. That makes you feel more connected. Well, this is how women feel about romance. So, practically speaking, what are some tips to be more romantic? Well, you can buy her stuff. You don't have to spend $1 million. But if you leave the house and you go to the gas station to get gas, it would not kill you to go in and get her favorite candy bar or, whatever she likes, or a magazine. Even just this little thing would be transformative to many relationships, as sad as that is. Because women that are in this boat of not feeling that the man is very romantic, they feel like you literally do not think about her during the day. This is so interesting because I'll always say to men, men in this dynamic, I'll say, how often you think about your wife during the day? And the answers never are less than multiple times a day. They always at least say multiple times a day. And sometimes they say, I'm like always thinking about her. She's always in the back of my mind. And the woman is astonished because there is no real world evidence for this. He's not texting very much. He texts mostly in response, picks up the phone if she calls, again, responding, and doesn't really go out of his way to do anything much that would indicate to her that he was, in fact, thinking about her. What a tragedy. This is leaving money on the table here. You are actually thinking about your wife, but she doesn't know. If she knew, she would be so much happier. So whenever you can think of a way to show your wife that in fact you were thinking about her during a time when she thinks you're not thinking about her, this is the money shot. So in my little example of going to the gas station, you are thinking about her. You got out of the car, you went in, you got her a Kit Kat. She likes Kit Kats. And you can then put this later on her, desk with a little note that says, I love you. I thought you might want a treat. This would be ramping up the romance by a factor of about 1 zillion% for many people that are in a non-romantic relationship. Just this little thing. Ask your wife. If you don't believe me, you think that would be so stupid, ask your wife if she would like that and find that to be a cute gesture. I will assure you that the majority of women would think it is. Next. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to spend $1 million. Let me reiterate that. You do not have to bring home a Lexus with a bow around it. We're not talking about that. If you spend, literally, not joking, $10 a week, $40 a month on little cute things, the average woman would be like 70,000% happier. And you could tell that I am a real math person by the specificity of those numbers. No, I'm not. But this is for real. Your wife would be like 1 million times happier if she knew that you thought about her in this little way. Next, you have to verbalize what you feel. Do you feel like you deeply love your wife, that she is very beautiful, that she is a very good mother, better than giving your children a better childhood than the one that you had? Are you thinking that she really has a lot on her plate and she deals with it with a lot of grace? Are you feeling that she is always the funniest one in the room? Do you feel that she has a quick intelligence about her? Do you deeply trust her? Anything that is special about your wife, write this stuff down. If you're not Mr. Romantic, then you don't think about this stuff on a regular basis. So what you do is you take up notepad or an email to yourself, and whenever you have a little thought about your wife, write it down. By the end of like 2 weeks, you're going to have a really nice email there to send. But you have to start scanning situations with an eye on what is something nice that I can observe in this situation. This is in and of itself transformative. If your wife is sitting there tying your son's shoes for the millionth time and singing him a little song, and this is a nice moment that makes you smile internally, why does she never hear about it? Train yourself to notice positives. Now, you should be doing this in the workplace too. You should be doing this with anybody who works for you. Train yourself to notice positives. You should also be doing this as a parent. This is called, in parenting, catch them being good. Catch them being good, so you're not always just saying to your kid, oh, stop doing that, don't do that, no, bad, don't. Instead, catch them being good. Catch them doing something that you like and say, oh, great job sitting there quietly while I was on a phone call. Most people would only say, why'd you have to bother me when I was on a phone call? But if the child is nice and good and quiet, like you've told them a million times, you don't mention it. You just feel like, oh, all right, good. In your head, you don't think anything. However, if you change this frame, then you can catch your child being good, and they're going to feel a lot closer to you and a lot more likely to do the good thing in the future because it was positive reinforcement. But your relationship will be closer. And the same thing with your wife. So when she makes a nice meal, don't think, oh, that's baseline, she likes to cook. Say, wow, this is really great. A lot of people don't make nice meals like this regularly. I feel lucky that you always make these nice dinners. Your wife may drop dead of shock if you don't usually talk like this, or she might say, what do you want? Now, don't get disillusioned if she says, what are you acting so weird for? What do you want? Do you just want to get laid? Listen, it's not her fault. If you never say stuff like that, then it would be as bizarre as if she dropped to her knees and gave you the analogous blowjob. You might be within your rights to think, holy shit, what's going on? Is she cheating on me? What's happening? Because when somebody changes their behavior massively, it is only human to wonder why and what the catalyst is. So if your wife does say, why are you making all these comments about what I do? You never used to say this. You are going to gain even more points for saying the authentic truth, which is, I'm working on our marriage. I'm working on myself as a husband. I'm listening to a therapist's podcasts and listening and thinking, boy, that's something I don't do. I'm really not nice enough about the good stuff that you do as a wife. No woman is not going to like that. She's not going to think you're somehow cheating. Like, oh, he's getting ideas from someone. Women love the idea of a man taking his time to research better ways to behave in a relationship. This is just like if you came upon her studying how to be better in bed. I mean, you would be so thrilled. You would hardly say, oh, well, I guess you should have come up with that on your own. I mean, it's laughable. Most men would be thrilled and excited. And your wife would feel the same, knowing that you specifically are trying to research how to be a better partner. This is catnip. This is an aphrodisiac for women. In fact, you can actually just go tell your wife that you listen to this podcast and they're already going to like you 10% better just because you said that and because you did it. So what's another way that you can be romantic? We got the little gifts and we got the mention when she's doing something good. Another way is to pursue her sexually. Now, you may say that you do this already. This is one that you got in the bag. But how do you pursue her sexually? Does it look anything like it does in romantic movies? Because if you're wanting her to give you sex that looks like porn, then it is only fair that she wants you to be romantic in the ways of Nicholas Sparks' The Notebook movie, which is probably a real marriage destroyer because no man can approximate the main character in that. But they should be trying, just like your wife should be trying to give you a blowjob out of porn. You should be trying to be the protagonist in The Notebook. Go watch The Notebook. That's really what you should do. So many women like that movie. I couldn't get through the movie, but I really liked the book. The book was super romantic. So go read it or Google it or email me and I'll tell you the main idea. If you're really that lazy, though, I mean, you're probably not going to get anywhere. Look it up, read it. It doesn't take too long to read. We're not talking about Shakespeare. But anyhow, so what you want to do is to pursue her sexually in a romantic way. This means tell her how beautiful she is. Tell her how you are looking at her and desiring her so much. Tell her that she has such a beautiful body and go into depth. You could do this in a normal voice, by the way. Don't joke. Don't ever joke when you're trying to initiate sex. So many women say this is a massive turnoff. Do not joke. Do not honk her boob. I have heard it all. Do not grab her ass and make some kind of silly remark. You should be treating your pursuit of her very seriously. The same as you don't want to joke in the middle of her giving you a blowjob. That would be a real buzzkill, to put it mildly. She does not want any humor in your pursuit of her. Probably if you're doing this, it's because you're insecure or you're scared of rejection. So you could introspect about that as well, because those are usually the reasons that men act humorous about pursuing their wives. So initiate in a romantic way, give her a deep kiss, grab her, look into her eyes, pick her up physically. Women like shows of that the man is powerful. Of course, if she says, put me down, put her down, but women like to be swept off their feet, often literally and definitely figuratively. So if you can be more romantic and serious in your pursuit of her, then it may go a lot better than your joking or very kind of juvenile seeming attempts to initiate, which involve any sort of humor. There's no humor. Don't do humor in your initiation. Just like you don't want her to do humor in bed. I mean, if something is funny, people can laugh, but do not use this as your technique for initiating and then wonder why she isn't weak in the knees. She is only human. So the last thing that I will say is do things that she specifically has asked for. If this sounds commonsensical, that's because it is commonsensical, but so few men do it. So if your wife is always like, you know what would be nice? You know what would be nice is if you planned a surprise weekend away. And you're thinking, yeah, you know what would be nice if I won $1 million. That's not the way that your wife means this. What she means is, I am nursing this grievance and I want this weekend away so bad. I think about it all the time. And in particular, I think about the fact that I've mentioned it 47 times since 2010 and you've never done it. So if there are things like that, do a deep scan and a deep dive of what your wife has mentioned. Like, oh, you know what would be nice? What she means is, I want this so much. I want it so much. If your wife is like, oh, you know what would be nice if I came home and the whole house was clean. So do it. What's this? A few hours out of your life, and maybe this is the transformative moment that makes your wife feel heard and understood and like you take care of her and that you really listen to her. It's really easy to dismiss what people say, but it takes some strength and some courage to actually think, maybe I have been fucking up by not taking this seriously all along. So if your wife has one of these things that she keeps coming back to, then actually take it seriously, and maybe it will be transformative. So a lot of women have these empathic ruptures where the man reacted to them totally different than they thought that he would, and it basically broke their heart. And if you have one of these empathic ruptures and she talks about it a lot, try to fix it. So if you proposed in a way that she hated because you were young and you didn't have any money, or you were ambivalent about marriage and she's always felt bad about it, propose again. If she always felt bad about the fact that, you were weird about having, an engagement photo shoot and you were kind of a dick about it, get another photo shoot now for your anniversary. You can do anything as a do-over. If your wife keeps talking about it, that means that she takes it very, very seriously. Just like if you were to say 47 times since 2010 that it would be really, really nice if she dressed up like a cheerleader, that's not a joke. You really do want it. So it's the same thing for something that she brings up all the time. Take it seriously. Okay, so those are some practical, real-world tips on how to be more romantic and what women mean when they say you are not romantic. Try to engage in this way, and who knows, your sex life and your marriage overall may improve by a significant margin. All right. That's all, folks. Hope this was helpful. Please like this podcast and subscribe so that you get all my new episodes on Spotify or Apple or Google or however you listen. And I'll talk to you soon.